the Western Project, Socrates. Socrates is running around with these probing questions for people, basically showing them up, and they eventually kill them for it, showing them up as not knowing what they're talking about. What is beauty, right? They know perfectly well until he asks them, and then they can't say. And then he asks questions, and sort of... There's the makings of a method there. That is the dialectic method. And I guess the Western Project is the attempted articulation of knowledge, of physics, of the human mind, of nature, of the whole thing, everything, you know. And the apotheosis of the Western Project is the Artificial Intelligence Project, where this automaton can know what things are, the way that we know what things are. And then there's this question, well, how do we know what things are? And the answer is, we don't. Right? But now, turn the crank again, and okay, but now we have machine learning, so the AI can teach itself. It can learn from experience. Well, Hume was the guy who was talking about learning from experience. You were asking about Hume. Hume was that guy. But also there's methods for doing that, which are statistical. So we can do pattern recognition, and we can regard what we're doing as applying a body of statistical techniques, or we can call it machine learning and say that it's doing itself in some mysterious way, right? And then we have all these people being tremendously excited about the prospects of, now we're finally breaking through. We can finally break through to this intelligence. A genuine artificial intelligence, which is an oxymoron. Genuine artificial. But it always gets back to, you had to be there. There has to be somebody to make the judgment call, whether this was behaving in an appropriate, intelligent manner or not. It always gets down to some human, I guess. That means we should have more respect for other human beings, I think. Respect for ourselves, respect for one another. I think it always comes down to that. Yeah. And if you want to be mystical about it, there is only one intelligence. We're all the same person. So we already know already, without it even having to be said, the other side of anything, right? We already know that. We sort of pretend we don't because we're idiots. But that is the Western Project. Pretend you're an idiot, and you have to teach the idiot how to tie its shoelaces, how to do this, how to do that. And like the whole world is full of things that you're going to have to teach the idiot what it is, how to deal with it, what it means, da-da-da-da-da-da. That is articulation. My friend Sally, the demonic energy of the alphabet. You had this great line about alienation. You said it was the sort of the tail end of this piece you were reading about Michael Polanyi, and you actually quoted it as if it were like a sentence that you could quote.
It is a sentence that you can quote.
It was great.
We can only know what we know because we are in deep league with the alien tools of our own devising.
Wow, that's so great. There's two ways to take what Socrates was up to. One way is to think that he was the instigator of the Western project of articulating reason, okay? That leads up to eventually artificial intelligence, right? These autonomous entities that run around doing stuff and might even supplant us, according to some. But the other way to interpret what he was up to was he was trying to demonstrate that we can't know anything. People would talk about things as if they knew what they were saying, and then he would say, oh, you're talking about beauty. So let's talk about beauty. What is beauty? And they would discover. You know, he would lead with these questions, and they would discover they don't know what they're talking about.
And yet they do.
And yet they do. So it's a very interesting, paradoxical kind of... I would say this is the heart of the mystical Plato. The unknowable. Like Samuel Beckett, the unnameable. Like the cloud of unknowing. You know, like every mystic through history is talking about the unknowing, the unknowable, the mystery, the the thing we can't talk about. Plato called the perfect spheros. The whole, the all in all, the all in one, the simultaneous apprehension of all context, space, time, past, present, future, just one thing. We're operating from that. As respects knowledge, it looks like consciousness is that which cripples us. It's the one thing at a timeness. William James talked about the stream of consciousness, but it's only one thing at a time. And it can only see one thing at a time. It's that little bouncing ball of attention. And it keeps grabbing the attention with what's interesting, and we keep following it. And, you know, as long as you're in the woods and it's new, the woods are filled with beauty and mystery and wonder. But eventually, it gets boring, it flattens out. Right? It's like there's this whole ocean of all knowledge, all wonder, all glory, all everything around us, and yet we are pushing a peanut with our nose. You know? That's the focal object is all that we can attend to. That's consciousness. That's the distinction Polanyi makes between attending to and attending from. The attending from is the subsidiary. It supports. It's the ground. And so when a mystic like Meister Eckhart talks about the ground of being, or even more, he talks about the ungrund, the not being that is underneath the ground of being, right? That's really where it's at. But the idea of an intent and a purpose, like I'm going to go there, you can't get there. You're already there. There's this wonderful little cartoon. I don't know if I sent you this cartoon, but it's like the tortoise is challenging the rabbit to a race, the tortoise and the hare. And he says, I'll race you home. And the stupid rabbit goes, okay. And the next panel is the tortoise has just pulled in its arms and its leg. It hasn't moved. And the rabbit's looking really pissed off. Yeah. So, this was Polanyi's biggest point, was that this tacit knowledge that we rely upon in everything, he also phrased it as there's what we attend to and there's what we attend from. What we attend from is this thing that we can never have. We can never know, because knowing is a particular competence.
Yes.
It's the tool, it's the thing with which we grasp.
Yes.
Right?
Yeah.
But what grasps? That's what we can't have, because that's what we are.
Yes.
Yeah.
We can't be a tortoise and a rabbit at the same time.
Well, we always are simultaneously.
Because we are.
We are always both.
Yes, exactly.
And when we can enjoy that paradox,
Yeah.
it's terrifically amusing. It's the
Yes.
mother of all jokes.
Yes.
And
And that's why everything is funny.
it is. And the joke is we keep falling for it. We keep falling for that joke every time.
What are you falling for?
The joke. we're just made like, we're just like those idiots.
Yeah.
In Gestalt psychology, they talk about the figure in the ground is what they talk about a lot. So the ground is the attending from,
Yes.
the figure is the attended to.
Right.
Polanyi makes a further useful distinction. He says, we can know elements of the ground, but not as ground. We can, because knowing is to know in a focal way.
Right.
And the subsidiary
Yes.
tacit knowledge
Yes.
is a different mode.
Yes.
You can call it knowing if you want, as long as you're a little careful about distinguish knowing one from knowing two, Yeah. So the article that Oliver would link to was about the uninterpretability of the distinctions that the AI, the deep learning artificial intelligence,
Yes.
is making.
Mm-hmm.
We open up its artificial brain, we look inside for those neural networks, and we just see something that's completely confusing to us.
Right.
We cannot parse it. We cannot figure out how it's parsing the environment. There is that analogy, they call them neural networks, and it's appropriate technology in many ways because we can open up our skulls and we can look inside at this brain, and we can look at the fine structure of the brain, and then we can look at the sort of atlas of aphasias and brain traumas and behavioral and psychological deficits and problems, and we've been collecting this stuff for a long time, well, for 100 years or so, and now we have functional neuroimaging, and we can start to build a more detailed map. But we're still, we don't know how we know. There is this central dogma of neuroscience, is that it has to do with brain. And so we're going to study the brain, and then we will know how we know.
Yeah.
But it seems to get, it's fairly elusive, because the brain actually is connected to the rest of the thing. It just makes me laugh when I hear about, it's the most complicated object in the universe, right?
Right.
Yeah, but it's in the universe. And there's a whole lot of them, right? It's like, do you know you only use 10% of your brain? Oh, really? And what do you use? I like this comment from the world is my body. That was the comment. The world is my body. And it was from a Neo-Confucian of the 16th century, a guy named Wang Yang Ming, something like that.
Yeah.
Well, he was great. Those Neo-Confucians are wonderful, right? Yeah, the world is my body. You won't get to the bottom of the brain by looking at the brain, because the brain is part of the world. You have to go to the world, you have to look at the social matrix of brains, you have to look at the biological matrix of brains, you have to look at the entire universe, the entire one big thing, in order to understand any part of it, which is the kind of classic insight, I guess, of it is an ecstatic statement. You could say, I am the ecstatic voice of the world. The world is my body. I am its sensorium, its brain, its capacity for wonder and joy and delight in the whole show.
Yeah.